Hey friends, it's Len here at 1A Auto. Today we're working on a 2013 Subaru Outback. We're going to be doing a front brake job. It's going to be very easy. I want to be the guy that shows you how to do it. If you need these or any other quality part, you can always check us out down at 1aauto.com. Thanks. All right friends, so one of the first things that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make sure that we loosen up all 5 of these lug nuts. We don't want them very loose. We just want them to be broken free so we can go ahead and take them off once we get the vehicle up. The reason for doing it while the vehicle is semi-supported on the ground, but still most of the weight is off of the tire but still touching, is just so when I'm going to loosen this with my 19mm socket and I go to the left, I'm not going to be spinning the wheel in the air, right? We're just going to get them loose. Like I said, you don't want to take them all the way out. You don't want them super loose because if the wheel can, move around, you might damage your aluminum wheel. You might damage your studs that are underneath there. You might basically just cause damage that you don't want to cause. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to do that to all the lug nuts that we're going to be taking the wheels off of, and we'll move along. So now we're going to raise and support the vehicle. We're using a 2-post lift. You can use something like a jack and some jack stands. All right. Get the majority of these lug nuts off. I'm holding the wheel so it doesn't fall off. I'm turning my 19mm lug nut to the left. There it is in there. Grab my wheel, lower it to the ground, I'll put it out of the way. So now we get the wheel off. We're going to go ahead and remove our bleeder screw cover right here. I'm going to use a small pocket screwdriver. I'm just going to try to pull it off. You can use whatever you have access to. There we are, little cover. Set it aside someplace where we won't lose it. Those things are like gold. I'm going to use my 10mm. Just using a wrench. You can use a socket if you want. I'm going to go to the left, which is counterclockwise. Just break it free. Watch for a little trickle of fluid. That lets me know that the bleeder screw is actually open. I'm going to close it right back off. Perfect. So now that we know that that opens up, I can either try pushing the caliper back while it's still on the vehicle, or I can use a caliper depression tool. It's a little bit easier with dual piston calipers, just do it while it's on the vehicle. So I'm going to grab a little bleeder screw hose. I'm going to run it down to a recycling receptacle. I'm going to put it on there. I'll open this back up. I'll use a small pry bar. I'm going to go between the caliper and the rotor. Try to pull the caliper in this direction, which will in turn push these pistons in to the point that they're bottomed out. And then I'll go ahead and move ahead to taking off these caliper mounting bolts. So I've got my hose. Just goes down to my recycling receptacle down there. I'm going to put it right on the bleeder screw. I'm going to hold it on. I'm going to turn my 10mm wrench, once again counterclockwise, to open it up. I'm going to take my small pry bar, or if you have access to a screwdriver, whatever you want to use. You're going to go through the slots in your caliper, try to get it up against the rotor, and then we're just going to try to pry away. Right now the caliper's moving. You can see fluid coming down. Okay. Where I'm working up close to my face like this, I'm going to want to be careful not to punch myself in the face. I'm kind of like Tyson. I don't want to knock myself out. I'm that kind of guy, right? Here we go. Just going to get it in there. See what I can do. Essentially what we're trying to do though is just push those pistons back as far as they can go. There we go. So the caliper can move around quite a bit. I'm just going to push it in that direction now. I'm going to see about just going directly against the pistons. It's kind of hard to see, I'm sure, from your angle. I'll show you once I get the caliper off what I actually physically did under there. Let's go here. I'm being very careful not to try to poke up against any boots that are in there. You don't want to damage any of your caliper boots. That feels pretty good. I'll just give it 1 second to let any air that I might have pushed up in there just to kind of burp its way out. It's going to come down the tube. I don't need to wait for too long because I'm going to end up bleeding this out in the end anyway. So that seems pretty good. Let's close it off. Get my wrench off of there. I'm going to make sure all my fluid gets down into my hose. Nothing gets on the floor or the ground or whatever you're working under. My eyes. I'll set this aside. All right, so I got myself a little caliper hook. I want to make sure that I have this ready and at hand so I can hold my caliper. I'm just going to hold it up someplace onto maybe my strut, basically so my caliper isn't hanging on the hose and putting a tug on my hose. I don't want to put any tears or rips or tugs, anything that might cause a bubble or damage to this. Your brake system's high pressure. If you end up messing up your hose, you see a little crack or anything like that, or a bubble, usually you'll see bubbles along where the metal meets on, just replace the hose for safety's sake, okay? To move along, I'm going to remove this bolt right here and this one right here using a 14 millimeter. You can use a wrench or a socket. A wrench is going to be much easier in this area. So I'm going to start with the bottom first. When I take it out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it in a couple threads though. Okay, so I'm going to take it almost all the way out. It's nice and loose now. I'll leave it like that. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to do this one. Here we are. Okay, I'm going to hold my caliper so it can't go anywhere. Now I can remove my caliper bolt. These bolts right here hold your caliper to the sliders. So some people might call them caliper slider bolts. That's what they look like. They're both the same. You don't have to worry about mixing them up. I'm going to grab my caliper, pull it off. I'll show you what I was doing. Here's your caliper pistons, okay? When you step on your brake, it forces fluid through this brake hose right here and into your caliper. In turn, it goes through these, it pushes fluid out into the pistons, which then in turn squeeze these brake pads up against your rotor, causing friction and causing your vehicle to stop or slow. So I'm just going to go ahead and hang this up here. Actually, let's talk about something real quick. Since we're here and we're looking at it, you want to make sure that there's no moisture coming out from in between that piston and this boot, and there's no rips or cracks or anything crazy going on there. This one looks good, so I'd say we can go ahead and hang this up and out of the way for now. We'll move along. We're going to take off a caliper bracket bolt there, caliper bracket bolt there, okay? We'll get those right out of the way. Once we start them out, we'll leave them in just a little bit, and we'll remove the other one completely, and then this one, just like we did before, okay? You don't want to remove it all the way and then try to do this one and try to hold everything. It's going to be hard. Just leave it in a little bit. It's going to save you a little bit of hassle. I got my 17 millimeter wrench, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little bonk with my rubber mallet. Just like that. Here we are. I could try to use my fist, risk hurting myself. Let's work smarter. You could also use an air gun if you had something like that. A lot of people do, but some people don't. So for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and do a caveman style. I'm going to use my 17 on the top now. Same thing. I got my safety glasses on. Here we are. Nice and loose. This one. Nice and loose. Cool. I can put away my wrench. I'm going to grab the bolt that's hardest to get to. I'll take that one out first while I'm holding my caliper bracket. Come on. There it is. I'm still holding my caliper bracket so it can't fall down, hit me in the foot. You'll notice there's a lot of fluid here. This is just penetrant spray. So there's our caliper bracket. Okay, friends. So now we're going to go ahead and take off our brake rotor. This is part of our friction material, right? We've got our pads that squeeze on this. This is the rotor, okay? It's heavy duty metal. Bing, bing, bing. It's going to be super heavy. What we might have to do, if this doesn't want to break free from the hub that's underneath there, we're going to have to either whack it with a hammer if we're replacing it, or if we're not replacing it, we definitely don't want to whack it with a hammer, right? We're just going to use a little bolt right there. You can find the right thread pitch and everything. Screw it in there, and that'll press up against the hub that's behind there and screw into the threads in the rotor and push the rotor away from the hub. For this, we're actually just going to be replacing the rotor anyway. So what I like to do is grab one of our lug nuts. It's nothing special, it's just one that came off the vehicle. I'm going to put it on a few threads, even a couple more than that just in case. I'm going to take a little bit of penetrant, wearing my safety glasses in case anything comes back, tries to shoot me in the face. Worst case scenario, it gets in my beard. It's horrible, but I can live. Okay, I got penetrant in there. It's all going to soak in for a second. Like I said, we're assuming that we're replacing this rotor, okay? So we're not worried about the condition about it when we're done. So now I'm going to use my big fabulous hammer and I'm going to give it a couple whacks. This rotor's garbage, so I don't have to worry about trying to make sure that I hit just around here just in case, because I don't want to damage this. This rotor's garbage. I'm going to whack as far out as possible for the most amount of leverage as possible, okay? So I'm just going to go right around here. I'm going to try to stay away from these lug studs right here, because if I'm swinging and I'm trying to hit right here somehow, I mean, I might be pretty good, but there's pretty good odds that I might nick this thing. If I nick this thing, I bend over the threads, well, you're probably going to either replace the bearing or you're going to have to go down and you're going to have to get yourself a new lug stud and figure out how to put that in. Or you might even be lucky enough that you can just chase the threads if it's not too damaged. Let's skip right over that. We're just going to hit right here because we're replacing these rotors. So I'm wearing my safety glasses, wearing my hand safety as well. I'm going to go ahead and whack it. Just like that. Nice and light. I'm going to hold my rotor so it can't fall off and hurt me. Remove this lug nut. Just going to try to work it off. There's going to be some rust and rot behind there, as you can tell. Everything's falling out. You're going to have to just keep going back and forth. If for some reason it didn't want to come any further, you're having a super hard time, you're getting kind of irritated, just take your hammer, come from the back side. So there we go. Rotor's off. As you can tell by the condition of this rotor, it's not the best quality. I know that I just whacked it on this side, but we'll just pretend that that didn't happen. We just want to inspect the rotor. It's not very good quality. I would want to replace this with a quality 1A auto part. Here we have an old rotor from a 2013 Subaru Outback. As you can tell, it's not in the best condition. It's seen better days. It's got a lot of rust flaking up here. This cuts into the pads. It causes uneven wearing, as you can tell right along here. It's also going to cause noise. You can also tell where the pads ride inside the brackets. There's a lot of rust. That could cause those to get caught inside the brackets, which would cause excessive heat on the braking material. Because basically if these are stuck in the brackets, they're not being able to release from the brake. So they're just going to continue riding on the rotor, which will cause this to heat up. Eventually you'll get a brake pulsation. Judging by the look of this rotor, this person already had a brake pulsation. All these spots right here are just hot spots. So basically once this rotor heats up, things start to expand, right? When they get hot, they expand. These are going to expand more than other areas. So as they step on the brake, the pads are going to squish up against the rotor. They're going to do their job, squeeze real hard, right? And then it's going to cause these to heat up. They're going to expand. Every time this comes around and hits up against the pad, boom, 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 boom. They're going to feel it in their steering wheel. If this is a front brake rotor, which it is, you'll feel it in the steering wheel. If it was a rear rotor, you'd feel it in the seat. So we'll put that aside. We'll just talk about this stuff over here. This is brand new quality 1A auto parts right here. You can't get much better than this. As you can tell, the pads are in great condition. I mean, they're brand new, so of course they're in great condition. Brake condition. We've got ceramic pads. That's what this application calls for. So that's what we've got. We've got drilled and slotted rotors. This is great for heat dissipation and dust dissipation as well. Both sides are like that, so that's wonderful. So as you're braking, it's going to have a chance to cool down. All right, it's very important. You want your brakes to get hot as you're braking, and then you want them to cool down when you're not. So, as you can tell, this is a quality part right here. So if you need this part or any other part, you can always click on to 1aauto.com. Thanks. Okay, everybody, we've got our caliper bracket. Now it's time to get to cleaning, all right? Your mother always told you got to clean up your mess. Let's clean up this mess. We're going to take out our caliper sliders. We're just going to grab it by the boot, give it a little twist, pull it right out. This one has a little rubber boot on it, okay? So we want to make sure that one goes back in the same hole that we got it from. It might be easy to go like this and just throw it down, throw that one down in a pile too. We don't want to mix them up. This one we're going to put over here. Do the same thing for this one. Check them out. Pretty nasty and dirty. We'll clean those up in a minute. That one goes over here. This one goes over here. Easy to remember. Now while it's apart like this, I'm going to make sure that I'm wearing my safety glasses and my hand protection because I'm going to be using a chemical at this point. I'm going to spray inside this hole. If you have access to a straw, maybe this one came with it and it did. I'm just going to throw it on there real quick, making sure I'm not aiming at my face, of course. There we are. Okay, aiming away from my face, I'm going to try to spray into this hole. As I spray in, stuff's going to want to come out, all right? That's why I didn't want to have my face there. Last thing I want to do is get that in my eyes, my mouth, my anything, really. Okay? I'm gonna let that sit in there for a second. Just a little bit of parts cleaner. It's gonna eat away at that lube and gunk that's all inside there. Hopefully we'll get it cleaned up nice. We're gonna use something like this. It's a bore brush. I'm just gonna put it in there. I'm gonna power it up. It's gonna spin and clean it all out, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, do the same thing to the other one. Nice. We're going to go over our recycling receptacle. Put it in here. I'm going to spray a little bit more away from my face. There we are. Just clean that out. It was a new can, so it had extra power behind it. Nice. Okay, we'll take a look inside. As long as they look nice and clean in there, you don't see any more gunk, it should be good enough. I'm going to remove our bucket, get it away from my face so I don't have to breathe in those vapors. There's two different tins on these brackets. We've got one tin that has these right here, and one tin that does not. So when we put this back together, we want to put it back the exact way that we took it off, okay? Does not have it, does have it. There we go. Okay, we're cruising along. If you wanted to make your bracket nice and shiny and clean, you can go ahead and use a rag, some more of your parts cleaner, make it all shiny and red or however this person wanted it to look. You know, that's up to you, or you know, whoever's doing the job, it's their prerogative. It's really up to you how good you want it to look. I'll clean it up so it looks fairly decent, but I'm not too worried about that. Let's move on to the important stuff. Right inside here is where these tins are going to ride. Okay, just goes in there like that. So what happens is in between there in the tin, moisture and dirt and crud, and well, if you live in New England, God knows what gets inside there. Starts to corrode, starts to lift up the tin, your pads get stuck in your brackets, your pads get stuck in the brackets, warm up your rotors, you have an overheating condition, you just wasted all this time doing a brake job. So we're going to clean it up. I'm using something like a wire brush. You might have one with a nice long handle. I like it nice and short like this, so I just kind of, I broke it off. Makes it easier for me to hold on to. Some people would prefer it long, that's okay. It's all preference at that point, right? I mean, you do you, boo-boo. I'm gonna get this cleaned up. Looks pretty decent. We can go inside here. If you see any big flakes of anything, just clean it up in there too. You don't have to go too crazy in there. Basically, if there was large flakes, you'd want to just clean it up so it doesn't hit up against the rotor. Now we'll do the same thing to the other side. Okay, turn it. Okay, looks pretty good. I'll set that aside. I'm gonna grab the tins. Got a lot of muck in there. Let's clean those up. The odds that you're gonna get them perfectly clean and nice and shiny, well, not so much, right? I mean, but as long as we try, we do the best we can, who can ask for more? Just try to get it cleaned up, okay? You already got it apart. There we are. We'll do both sides of them. There we are. This one looks pretty decent. Like I said, it's not going to be 100% perfect. It looks pretty good. There isn't really any big lips or anything. If you saw some parts that seemed like they were sticking up quite a bit, just use your pocket screwdriver. Go right along here, try to get out whatever feels like it's lifting up to you. It's your prerogative, it's your car or the car you're working on. Do the best you can for what you got, okay? Set it aside. We're gonna do the same thing to the other one, and then we'll move on to the next step of cleaning our pins. So here we go. I finished cleaning up this tin as good as I could. This one as good as I could. Let's move on to the slider pins. So here's the pin. It's a metal piece. Don't mind that, that's just part of this thing. It's a piece of metal, it's a little shaft, right? This is just a boot. The boot actually comes off. We can put that right aside, and now we've got the actual pin. So we can take a look at it. As you can tell, it's pretty rusted going up along here. Let me get the rag out of the way, sorry. It's rusted going up along here. So what's gonna happen is the rust's gonna build up. It's gonna push this boot away, and it's gonna let moisture in. Moisture gets in here, works its way in between your slider and in between your bracket, starts rotting up. Next thing you know, your slider can't move. So this right here would have caused a major issue going down the road if it went too much further. Moisture would have continued in. We would have had a sticking piston, a sticking slider situation, and we would have had brake pad issues and probably an overheat condition. So here we go. We're gonna clean this up the best we can. We can take our clean rag or dirty rag, whatever you got, right? We're just gonna try to clean that off. We'll bring our recycling bucket over. And use a little bit of parts cleaner, holding it away from my face like always. I'm wearing my gloves, so my hands are safe. Very important, safety's key. I'm just gonna use my wire brush again. Try to clean this up all around there. If the wire brush doesn't do it, you might need a wire wheel, sorry. If you don't have access to a wire wheel and your slider pin looks like this when you're done, well, I would say just try to order some slider pins, because this is just gonna cause an issue down the line. You're gonna end up calling us up and trying to get another set of brakes sooner than you want. So I'm gonna bring this over to the wire wheel, get them cleaned up. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other one at the same time. We're gonna clean out the inside of these boots. The boots still have a lot of old grease inside there. We wanna try to get out as much of that as we can and replace it with new grease. So we'll go clean up the pins and we'll be right back. All right, so I spent a little bit of time. I cleaned these up. In all honesty, it probably wouldn't have worked with something like this. A little wire brush, I never would have gotten all that off. Judging by the look of this caliper pin right here, you can tell it's pretty pitted. That means that it was pretty rotted, right? I mean, the moisture really soaked into that metal. It wreaked havoc on it. If you wanted to, you can go ahead and replace something like this. I think that it should be fine. I think that it'll still make a pretty good seal. So what I would do is I would just make sure that I would use plenty of lubricant on it. Make sure I get it all the way up to here where the, all the way up to here where the boot's gonna be riding. Plenty of lubricant in there. That way there, no moisture can make its way in and through and then down into the slider pin and cause havoc, okay? So moving on, we're gonna clean up our little caliper boots here, all right? This is where the slider rides inside of, and it keeps the moisture out of our caliper bracket. An easy way to do this, just gonna grab my recycling receptacle again. I've got my parts cleaner, holding it away from my face, spray in there. Okay, everything's nice and wet. I'm gonna use my little tool again. I'm gonna go nice and slow. I don't wanna rip this boot, okay? All I wanna do is just get it moving around in there. Try to have it break up any grease that's hanging out in there, any dirt and grunge. See, I got it going through. Now I'm gonna slow it down. I'm gonna try to pull it off. Okay, set that aside. Use this again. Just squish it. If you're not wearing gloves, do not get any parts cleaner or chemicals on your hands. It's very dangerous for you. Now I'm gonna just take my clean rag, or cleanish rag, run it through, just like that. Just gonna take it, rub my boot just like this. That's gonna make it touch all up against that rag, hopefully collect as much of that dirty gunk inside there as possible. We'll set this aside so I don't breathe in the fumes anymore. We can look inside. As long as you get the majority of that out of there, I would say it's pretty good. I'll take a peek. I think it looks pretty darn good if you ask me. So we'll set that aside. We'll do the same thing to the other one and we can move on to the next step. So here we go, everybody. We've got both of our boots clean, got our pins clean, tins clean, brackets nice and clean. Let's get ready to lube up. So We've got our caliper lubrication right here. You can use what you've got. If you have some kind of silicone paste or whatever, you want to use something that isn't going to dissipate when the brakes heat up though, okay? You don't want to use Vaseline or whatever. It's basically just going to liquefy, it's going to melt down, just run all along, could get even on your braking material. So if you use something that melts down, it starts squeezing out, maybe it gets onto here, gets in between your pad and your rotor, you're not going to have great friction, right? So we want to make sure that we have the best friction as possible. So use something that doesn't break down with heat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go right along all the places where those tins are going to ride. We don't need to use too much. All we want to do is make sure that it's going to keep the moisture away from the metal. Moisture gets on the metal, it's going to start building up in between the metal of the bracket and the tins. Lift up those tins, hold our pads. Next thing you know, we've got an overheat condition. Let's do it right the first time. Some people will say you don't necessarily need to do this. That's their prerogative. If you're watching me on the video, you know, this is just the way I do it. Like I said, you don't need to have too much. We don't need to have big globs sticking off of there, anything like that. We just want it to basically look like everything's being coated, okay? I'd say that looks pretty good. When we go to put our tins back on, we want to make sure that we have lubricant here, which is going to be applied by just sticking it into the bracket. We don't want any lubricant getting on the outside here. The reason for that is because once this is on and the pad's in, if there's lubricant, it's just going to collect brake dust, and then your pad's going to probably get stuck in there. It could collect dirt or debris or anything else you're picking up, right? At least if it's under here, there's less chances of all that getting accumulated on there. You put it up here, you're just creating a gunky mess. So let's skip right past that mess. We'll put these tins in, okay? We remember that this one went on this side. We're just putting everything back together the exact way we took it off. We don't need to switch the tins around. Subaru knew the way that they wanted to do it when they put it together. So we'll just go with whatever the engineers think, right? I'm going to take a little bit of the caliper lube again. I'm going to make sure I lube up our tins. I know this stuff looks like it's black, and it is. It's not dirty. It's just the type of lubricant that we have here to use. You know, people might say, oh, your lubricant's already dirty. It's not. It's just black. So now I've got this lubricated, okay? I'm just going to put the thin side, slide it all the way up so it sits inside that ridge. I made sure to get my lubricant up inside that ridge like I told you because I want to keep the moisture out of there. If you feel like you want to put a little bit more because you forgot, or maybe you weren't really thinking about that, just put a little bit more. That's fine. More the merrier, at least in this application. So now we're just going to slide it right up on there, okay? I'm going to give it a little spin, just going to work everything together. Very nice. So here we go. Now we're going to continue lubing our caliper slider pin. Just put this all on here. Paint a nice picture for your mom. There you are, Mom. I'm going to come like this. I'm going to twist it as I go. Just getting the lubricant working its way down in there. All that's going to do is just keep the moisture out, right? Going to keep everything moving nice and smooth. Give it a couple squishes. Love it. It's perfect. Squish it down, comes back up a little bit. Very nice. If you end up putting too much lubricant down at the end here, when you go to push your pin in, you might notice your pin doesn't go down as far. It might just go to here. You try to push it, it really doesn't go any further. You put too much lubricant. Well, could be a minor issue, and I would say that it is a minor issue because all we have to do is take our small screwdriver, dig whatever we can out, make sure you put it on a waste receptacle, whatever you're doing to take care of that, not on the ground or your pants. Go like that, get it out as much as you can, and then just go ahead and just do however much you think that you need to put on there without actually causing that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of lubricant on this. This is the one that has all the pitting. So it's not the prettiest, but it's going to be hidden behind the boot anyway. And as long as we have an adequate amount of lubricant there, we shouldn't have to worry about moisture getting past. So here we go, thin side again, going up. Just like this. Give it a little spin. That makes sure that the lubricant's worked its whole way around that whole, the whole slot there, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Just Just lube this puppy right up. Very nice. A little bit there, no big deal. Okay, this one's going in this hole. Twisting as we go. Maybe you do want to twist, maybe you don't want to twist. It's what I like to do. Put it on there. You want to make sure you pay special attention to the fact that the boot actually made its way over the lip right here, okay? If it didn't make its way over the lip, and for some reason it's sitting out of the lip, down here like that, and you think you got it on there, you're not going to have a good seal, okay? This is going to move around. What's going to happen? Water gets in there. Mother Nature. There we are. Those feel pretty good. I'd say we're good to move on to the next step. So here we go. What I like to do is I like to use a little bit of lubricant here, a little bit of anti-seize. Just paint it all over the place, all over the backing plate, you know, whatever. You don't really need to go on the backing plate. Basically, you just want it to be on the hub where it's going to ride on the rotor, okay? Another thing to mention is you do want to make sure you clean up your rotor before you go ahead and put it all on, especially on the braking surface, because you want to make sure there's no packaging film on there or anything like that they use to make sure that nothing happened on the way. Okay, I just put a lug nut on just to start it on so this rotor can't move around. This is going to help prevent, you know, rust or anything from maybe falling in or making the or having the rotor kind of sitting a little cockeyed while we're trying to work. We just need it snugged. We don't need to really torque it down or anything like that because we're going to be taking it back off. Okay, I'm going to grab my bracket and I'm going to grab my bolts real quick. We've got our 2 bolts. Just use a little bit of thread locker. Okay. We've got our caliper bracket. Just slides in just like this. So we've got our 2 bracket bolts. We're just going to try to wiggle the bracket around until the bolts start in. Not going to tighten either of them down until we have them both started. This is common procedure for pretty much anything here. You want to make sure that you have all of your bolts started on whatever you're doing before you tighten any of them down, okay? Now that they're both started, I can go ahead and bottom them out, and then we're going to torque them down. So I grabbed a 17mm ratchet wrench. I'm going to go ahead and snug these right up. I'll bottom them out, and then we're going to torque it down to 88 foot-pounds. There we are, bottomed out. Grab my torque wrench. Still using a 17. Obviously, he's doing the same bolts, so. Okay. Grab this one. There we are. We've got 2 bolts. We torqued them both. We can move on to putting our pads in, putting our caliper on, and then bleeding it out. So here we go, we've got our pads. We've got the tin right here that has our little flippy-do. Right, that's facing down, so we're just gonna go like this. We've got our brake squealer, that's gonna go facing down. We're just gonna try to get it set up so it squeezes in. It should move around fairly freely. Not too much up and down, but mostly just like this, okay? So if you try to squeeze it in and it won't go in, you're thinking you gotta use a hammer, bang, bang, bang. Well, something went wrong. You're gonna have to clean up your bracket a little bit more. Try again, it's okay. Don't be down about it. Just take it apart, do it right. So here we go, we'll do the other one. Should slide right in, very nice, very nice. Love it. Now we can go ahead, we'll get our caliper going here. So we already checked to make sure that our pistons weren't leaking anything. They looked great. The next thing you'd want to do is make sure you clean this up a little bit. Make sure there's no debris or garbage inside there, any flakes. So we'll grab our brush, we'll clean this all up. We're going to add a little bit of brake caliper lube here, there, and there. And then we'll mount it up. So I used my brush. I gave it a little scuffing. I could have probably done a little better, but I'm not really that worried about it. I got my other brush right here with a little bit of lubricant on it. I'm going to do both caliper pistons, just where they touch on to where the pad is, okay? We don't need to paint the whole caliper, make it all nice and lubed. It's really not about that. It's just about making the contact points lubricated. It's going to help with vibration dampening. It's also going to help make sure that the pad can freely move around as it should. So we got our little forky doos on the front here. We'll get those nice and lubed. Okay, that looks pretty great. We've got our 2 small caliper bracket bolts. If you want to use a little bit of thread locker on those, you could. We're going to get the caliper up on here. You notice that these spin, right? We remember that. We got these little lines right here. That's going to catch. So you need to have these lined up with the way that that's going to be. Otherwise, you're going to have an issue getting them on, okay? Just get that like that. This one like that. Okay. I'm just going to grab a little bit of thread locker. I'm going to get both these started. Feels good. I want to be able to move the caliper around. Feels good. We're going to go back to using our wrench. We'll snug these down and then we'll torque them. Using my 14, snug. Let's hit this one, snug, perfect. Let's get these torqued down. So we've got our torque wrench set to 20 foot-pounds. We're going to make sure we torque both of these, 1 and 2. You can do them whichever order you want. I didn't mean to specify that, but there we go. 20 foot-pounds really isn't very much. So there we go. Now that we've got these torqued, we're going to go ahead and pump up the brake. We'll get it so the brake pedal feels like it's nice and firm. Okay? Once it feels like it's firm, we'll pop open this bleeder screw. We'll wait for a solid stream of fluid to come out. And then we'll close it back up. And then we can commence with our brake bleeding process. Assuming you had another person that could help you out with it, they would want to sit inside the vehicle, pump up the brake 3 to 5 times very slowly. 1, 2, and so on, 3 to 5 times. On that 3rd or 5th time, you want to hold the pedal. Somebody else is going to come out here with their 10mm wrench, open it up, being very careful to wear safety glasses. Fluid's going to come out under pressure. Might even splash up against here, could hit you in the face. Wear your safety glasses. Once the fluid stops coming out, close it, have them do it again, and keep doing that process until you see no more air coming out of here. If you have to do it a whole bunch of times, you're going to want to go back up top and you're going to want to make sure you double check your brake fluid so it doesn't go empty, or else you're going to have a lot of air coming out of here and we're going to have big issues, okay? One last thing, bleeder screw cover, super important. Keeps the water from getting in there, rotting up this so you can't open up your bleeder screw. Boop. And now let's get this lug nut off of here. All that was doing was just making sure the rotor didn't move around too much on us. I'm going to grab my wheel. I'm going to roll it up my leg and lift it with my abs. I'm not going to come from the front and try to lift with my back, potentially hurt myself. I'm going to try to stay healthy as long as I can. I want to live a long, long time. Hold the wheel, start my lug nut. You can bottom it right out if you want, as close as you can so the wheel can't move around too much. All right, we'll grab the rest of them. Throw one on the floor. We'll just get them all started on, then we'll bottom them out. Bottom them out. I'll go grab my other lug nut. We'll bottom them out and then we'll torque them down. Okay, got them all bottomed out. Now we're going to bring it down so the wheel's just barely touching the ground. We don't want all the force of the vehicle on it. And then we're going to torque these down to 88 foot-pounds. So here we go. We've got our torque wrench, 19mm. We're going to 88. The actual torque spec is 88.5. This particular torque wrench doesn't do 0.5, at least as far as I know. Don't mind that. There we go. So I did a star pattern. We've got them all torqued down. We're good to go. Great job.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1aauto.com, your place for DIY auto repairs, for great parts, great service, and more content.